When you think of a military band, what comes to mind? Probably crisp uniforms, right? Polished brass instruments, perfect formations. But what if I told you that for one band, the 49th Army Band in post-war Austria, the story was way less about the concert hall and a lot more about, well, the gritty reality of being a soldier? We're gonna pull back the curtain here on a story that is so much more than just music.
So, what was the real deal for these musicians? I mean, was it really all just parades and fancy fanfares for visiting VIPs, or was there this other side to their service? A much grittier side, one that involved things like guard duty and kitchen patrol? That's the exact question, this kind of wild contrast that we're diving into.
All right, so let's start with what everyone expected to see. This was their public face, right? The sound of ceremony. It was all about precision, pageantry, the whole shebang.
Okay, so their most obvious job, the one everyone saw, was to provide the official soundtrack for all the big, important ceremonies. We're talking front and center stuff, major parades like the ones for the 350th Infantry Regiment. If there was a formal occasion, they were the heartbeat of it, no question.
Now you're going to see this acronym, USFA. Real quick, that just stands for United States Forces in Austria. And this is super important because it puts our story right in the middle of post-World War II Europe. Think about it, a time of massive rebuilding, but also a ton of political tension.
And this is a big but. That whole polished, ceremonial image, that was only half the story. Not even. See, behind all that was the one single rule that trumped everything else in military life. You are a soldier first and a musician second.
And you really saw this whenever the USFA forces went out into the field for maneuvers. Suddenly, everything changed. The sheet music got packed away, the instruments were set aside, and the band members, their jobs completely, and I mean completely, transformed. So what were they doing instead? Well, they were trading their trumpets for rifles to stand guard duty. They were running around as messengers carrying vital info across the field. And yep, you guessed it. They were doing their time on KP, kitchen patrol. Talk about a world away from the concert stage, right?
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This wasn't some occasional thing. It was standard procedure. The source material spells it out plain as day. The band went with the headquarters and took on all these crucial, non-musical duties right there, shoulder to shoulder with every other soldier. Okay, so that's life out in a field. But what about when they were back at their home base, Camp Truscott? Well, even there, their daily life was this really interesting mix of hardcore discipline and, well, community.
I mean, you see those perfect, flawless parades and concerts, and you might think it just happens. No way. That was the result of nonstop work behind the scenes. Think about it. Every single day, these guys had to rehearse to make sure the next performance was absolutely perfect, all while juggling every other military duty they had.
And, their job went way beyond just official duties. They played this really crucial, deeply human role on the base. Their music was like the glue for the whole community. It was a huge, huge boost for morale.
Just picture this for a second. The band would go down to the railroad station for every single train that brought in new troops and families or took them away. So they were literally the first hello for the nervous new guys arriving, and they were the last emotional goodbye for soldiers heading home. Their music was the soundtrack to some of the most powerful moments of a soldier's entire time there.
But their reach didn't stop at the base gates, not at all. The 49th Army Band actually played a huge part in what we'd now call public diplomacy. You can really see this in the year 1951. You have to remember, Austria was still recovering from the war, trying to navigate this complex situation with 4 different occupying powers. And right in the middle of all that, the band was out there playing tons of concerts for the Austrian people. This wasn't just for fun, it was about building bridges. By going into cities like Linz and playing for regular folks, they basically became cultural ambassadors. For a country still healing, their music was this incredible way to build trust. It showed a totally different, more human side of the American forces, and it really helped create a positive relationship with the local Austrians.
So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, it's pretty clear, isn't it? The 49th was so much more than just a band. They were this incredibly versatile and, frankly, indispensable unit.
Let's just break it down one more time. You had 3 different faces of this one band.
First, you had the performer for all the ceremonies, parades, and public concerts. Then you had the soldier pulling guard duty, running messages, and doing KP. And finally, you had the diplomat out there building goodwill with the Austrian people. 3 totally different jobs, and every single one was vital. You know, the story of the 49th Army Band is such a great reminder that there's almost always more to a job than what we see on the surface. It really makes you think, and it kind of leaves us with one final question to chew on. What are the unseen duties in all the roles around us? The next time you see anyone in a public-facing job, a performer, a first responder, a teacher, just think for a second. What's the hidden work, the stuff we don't see, that makes everything they do possible?